Today I want to do something a little bit different. An old Mini Cooper, little fender, kind of a fender with a extra fog light and a headlight and a little turn signal. It's kind of interesting because I came across this photo while I was doing a search for the Marshall fog lights. They used to do aftermarket fog lights. They're a French company. SEV Marshall, I think is how you pronounce it. Marshall? Michel? I can't do a French accent. I wish I could. I've always wanted to learn French. But anyway, I was Googling those tail light or headlight and fog lights and see if anybody was making a version of them. I own a Mini Cooper. I own a newer one, not the old one. But I sometimes think about doing some modifications, at least in sketch form, to the Mini Cooper and drawing it out just for the fun of it. It's kind of fun to draw cars. It's tough. I'm kind of more used to drawing people's faces and bodies than I am cars. I could probably do a little bit more work on anatomy on people. But overall, anatomy on cars is a little bit rough. So I'm going to sketch it out here because, all these blades of the grill are messed up a little bit. This thing's probably, I want to say it was early 80s maybe earlier than that. I forget. So you see some stress cracks underneath the headlight with the little rust here and there on the underskirt of the, kind of underneath the grill there, and you see it underneath the headlight where there's some scratchy places and a little stress crack around there where the fender was kind of sort of bolted to the or welding where the pieces are welded together. There's a little stress crack there. I didn't really get too much in that. I sketched it out here, but I haven't really got too much into that. I need to do something with it later, though, on my last installment. This is pretty much the first installment where I'm kind of sketching it out. Probably speed this up just a hair in pieces, so it's not quite so boring. But yeah, just trying to, and I like the way my lines look. I think I'm using the small rigger with kind of a darker black sort of thing. And I'm trying to do everything on one layer if I can. When I first started using this program years ago, I never really did anything but just layer after layer. It was nice to do that because you could fix your mistakes a lot easier and they weren't quite so permanent and that type of thing. But then I got into a deal where I kind of wanted to just do everything on one layer, kind of like an actual painting, because painters can let the paint dry and then go back over it with different layers, but they seem to kind of work, kind of at the same time, like all in one little thing. And here I am just in the what do you call it? Some of this is off a little bit with my composition. Some of this I didn't quite do very well. Some of it I'm going to fix later because I didn't like the way it looked. But that's the process. So like here where I'm drawing the outer part of the grill here, the big chrome part, those pieces don't match up very well. Here I am screwing up. I gotta get that. So yeah, and the problem with that, it's okay that they don't match up well. You just got to make sure when you draw it, you need to also kind of do that. You may not necessarily have to get deep into all the little stress cracks and rust and stuff like that, unless you're good at drawing that stuff. I'm not yet, but maybe you need to kind of focus in on making it look somewhat realistic by realizing that all those slats in there are kind of at different distances, and it's not just You know, generally speaking, the ones at the top have a little bit more of a gap, whereas the ones at the bottom, as you're looking down, will be closer together. But they're also kind of not really uniform. They're not perfect blades of aluminum or metal or whatever like they used to be. You know, 50 years ago they were probably a lot straighter. Now they've endured some little dents and dings, and the wind probably pushed on it a little bit here and there, and I don't know, a little stress of gravity and old age. So they're always going to be off a little bit and not just be these perfect little slats. Of course, when you first draw it out, you almost have to draw it out as perfect little slats. At least I do, so that I can get some sort of basic shapes of it here. And I'm not really that concerned with totally getting it perfect. I don't want it to be too off, but and sometimes it's kind of nice for me. I don't know what the term for this is, but it's pretty much me trying to block off a section and say, don't worry about anything underneath here. And as such, let me go ahead and get started on this headlight real quick. You know, and some of these other things, and kind of make sure they're okay. I have a tendency to jump around way too much. It's almost like I got bored with the slats all being the same length and everything, and I kind of wanted to take a little time out and do something else that I knew kind of what it was supposed to be like. It's really tough sometimes to focus in on one little thing. You kind of want to do a little bit of everything at the same time. Because I also don't want to do all these little slats in there and get them done and then realize that like my headlight's off, or it's not long enough, or I should have drawn the outer grill longer somehow, or you know what I mean? Like, I kind of have to sketch out little bits and pieces of it. Alright, right now we're just kind of focusing on kind of cleaning up some of the mistakes from earlier, erasing the bar underneath the headlight, that type of thing. Going in here and trying to fix some of these other little areas that I've made mistakes on. I always have to try to clean up a little bit now because some of these shapes I don't totally like. Some of them I do, some of them I don't. But yeah, just trying to reinforce some of these little lines here and erase some of my other little mistakes. Now I'm here kind of gonna go back in with these slats now that I've given myself a little bit of a break. Now I can kind of concentrate on kind of how I want to do these things. And they, you know, like I say, at first it looks like it's a very perfect little opening to a grill. You know, a sort of a slanted line down, and then it goes, you know, kind of a little point there. But really, whenever you see it, you realize they are kind of not perfectly little lines. And I probably didn't do the best job of doing them, but I just kind of wanted to get a basic idea what these little things would look like in the grill. I don't want to go too overboard. Sometimes people make stuff look too old or too messed up, and I just thought I'd go ahead and try to keep that part kind of as best I can. I think this is where I kind of realized my little fog light bar here is too long. I've got too much of that lower valance, or whatever you call this piece is, kind of behind the bumper. I got too much of that, like I made it too long. So now I'm going to try to, now that I've raised that bar up, now I kind of got to raise the bumper up as well. And in the old days, I would have just cut this out. I kind of forget how to do that in this program, but I would just cut it out then, as opposed to redrawing it. I don't know if that was laziness or me trying. I was probably too scared that I couldn't draw it as well as I wanted to the second time around. But I guess because I've been drawing more lately, I'm just like more confident. And that's, again, not totally the right angle of that lower piece there that fits underneath the bumper. It's kind of at a wrong angle. I never fix it, I don't think. So yeah, we're going to finish up this, or do this tire here real quick. You know, some of those shapes, I don't really care about the background right at the moment, but I probably should at least get that tire in there. Now we're going to go into the headlight here and do a little drawing. Or I guess I should say fog light, not the headlight. And looking at my headlight, honestly, on the far right, I think it looks kind of weird. It's not quite symmetrical. It's not supposed to totally be symmetrical, but I think it's a little bit off. But I want to forget about that right now. I'm just going to try to get this fog light. It's tough at first because there's so many little layers to it. You've got like the outside layer that's on the back. Then you got that piece that fits into that that's like the kind of the clear part. And it might have a little ring on it. And they all have different shadows because at one point they're all chrome. It was probably in some ways easier to see. It was probably so shiny that it was probably harder to draw. And now I'm just trying to do this little thing that's kind of in the middle of this fog light. And I like I said, I can't help but go to other stuff all the time. And once I see something that needs to be changed or fixed, I just sort of jump over and do it. So here I am doing the little turn signal light, getting it where it goes. I think sometimes it's just the enjoyment. Like right now when I look at it, I look at that line on the fender there, underneath, you know, to the right of the headlight coming down, and that tire, and then that lower part. Those are all kind of nice looking lines, you know. It may not be totally perfectly correct as far as, you know, the composition, the placement might be off a little bit here and there, but I guess I enjoy like looking at it so much that's why I'm constantly like jumping around to different parts. Fix this little piece, go over, fix this little piece, go back over that. So I guess if you took a snapshot of every little section, you would have something that looks kind of cool. Like this looks kind of cool with just like a pencil type drawing.